Hey, welcome to the Jesus Magnet podcast. I'm your host, Joel Hillary, with Joel Thompson, also a host. And we've also got amazing guests today. We've got Kyle. What's your last name, Kyle?
Birch.
Birch.
Like the tree.
Oh, Kyle Birch, like the tree. Awesome. And he's going to share his testimony. And we're going to kick that off with the joke. Off you go, Joel.
All right, this one's for Kyle. Kyle, one time a guy walked into a bar with his dog, and he said, my dog can talk. And the bartender said, nope, I don't believe you. If your dog can really talk, I'll give you $10,000. He said, okay, cool. All right, great. Scruffy, what's on top of a house? Dog says, roof. He says, what's the top of your mouth called? He says, roof. He says, who's the best baseball player in the world? He says, roof. Bartender says, you guys are tricksters, throws him out. Then the dog looks at his owner and says, do you think I should have said DiMaggio?
That is quite clever. I enjoy that.
You could definitely be pulled off on Family Guy with Brian. For sure.
That's great.
It's a good one.
It's good.
Like
It just reminds you of the joke, the anti-joke of that, where it's like a man walked into a bar and hurt his head.
Oh, yeah, he says, ow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or a man walked into a bar and a stool and a table. Just keeps going.
It was all there.
Various injuries.
You got any jokes?
Multiple lacerations. I'm honestly strapped for jokes.
No jokes?
Before the podcast, they asked me to prep, and I'm just can't even think of one. We're discussing that. All I could think of was just bad racist jokes from when I was young, and I'm just, it's not about it.
The before Christ days.
Yeah.
Hey, why don't you tell us about that? What were those like?
My jokes and my years before
No, your
Christ.
years. Tell us your story.
Whoa.
Yeah, let's listen to the BC days of Kyle.
Wow. Yeah, I guess they're formative in who I am now, where I am, and yeah, I guess what I believe. It's probably pretty vital to understand my past. Well, I don't know. I suppose I know both of you guys relatively well. Joel Hillary and myself did DTS with YWAM. That's where we knew each other from. Shortly after that, met Joel Thompson after I joined volunteering with them. But yeah, my name's Kyle Birch. I am 23. I am a Kiwi from the North Island. And anybody listening from Queenstown will be ashamed to know I'm from Auckland. But that's okay.
Oh, we love Aucklanders.
Okay, great. Joel, oh man, so many people in the streets, I tell them I'm from Auckland. They're like, oh, we won't hold that against you. So many times recently. I'm like, what's wrong with Auckland?
Animosity?
Joel's looking at me with disgust. He's like, you really say
me
that?
too. Actually, maybe there's a little animosity. I feel like I'm the neutral party. If you guys want to go at it.
No, I grew up in South Auckland. I have one brother, and both my parents still together, which is amazing. And yeah, and I'm married as well, which is a huge thing. My wife is in the room. She's doing a thing. We'll just leave her alone. But
Shout out, Sydney.
yeah, her name's Sydney. She's a pretty important person.
Right on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I don't know. I suppose my story starts at a very young age.
Starts at the beginning.
Starts at the beginning. No, and I've been involved in missions for a while, so sharing my testimony is not a foreign idea to me. And I was thinking about this before I came on the podcast. I'm like, I've told my testimony so many times, I would have thought I'd got better at this point, but sometimes I'm still not that great at it. But yeah, I'll try and chase a narrative from where I was and how God's taking me to where I am now. But yeah, it's a pretty normal Christian upbringing in terms of beliefs, like
Church on Sunday.
yeah, church on Sunday, don't drink, don't have sex before marriage, don't watch porn, or like, I don't know. There was just guidelines that I knew were in the sand when I was young, being kind and giving, and yeah, and I think my parents did a really awesome job of modeling that life to me, and it's cool to see now even how I know for sure they've grown in their faith as I've come to the Lord, but yeah, I grew up with that environment, so I guess that's important at this stage of my life. Yeah, I don't know how to go in depth with it, but or how in depth I should say. But yeah, I was very athletic growing up. I'm 6'4", for anybody who hasn't met me. I'm probably about 100 kilos now, just over 100 kilos, but I used to be close to like 130 kilos when I was in high school, which is almost 300 pounds for anybody in the States. Joel's giving me a look.
Thank you.
Joel's giving me a big look.
Nice.
Yeah, I was a chunky guy. Wasn't all muscle, but let's just say that. But I had a huge. I think I can see from my past how little bits and pieces have formed me, like in terms of how I viewed myself and where God met me in the future. Like for example, like athletics was a huge part of my life, not literal athletics, but sports. And that kind of stuff. I did hockey for a long time in school. I was a competitive rower in high school when I was younger.
You never played rugby?
I did, actually. Yeah, I don't know. Rugby was never my thing hugely because I didn't enjoy hurting people that much. Everyone, so many people say I'm like a teddy bear, but
you are.
Yeah,
his wife is going. But she's nodding.
I'm just a big softie. No, I didn't like for anybody who isn't from New Zealand, at least when I grew up, it was a thing that like if you are born a male, you play rugby.
Yeah,
and you go to the game.
Passage.
Yeah, Saturday morning, you're up at 7 or 6:30. It's like frost on the ground. It's winter. It's so cold. You've got orange slices. The sun gets out, and then you're playing, and it's great. And I did enjoy it when I was younger, but I had an injury. A referee ran, they run backwards to kind of like keep an eye on the play. Ran right into me and fell on my spine. And wrecked me. And I was probably like maybe 10 or something. So it wasn't like a baby, but I was definitely like young enough for that to be an injury. I think it put me out for a while. I didn't play until I was in high school. And then I broke someone's collarbone and I was like, maybe this isn't for me. I just tackled them. I just always been big. So if I hit someone wrong, I also did boxing, and that was a similar idea. I just like would hit people way too easily. Yeah. So I was just like, maybe not do this.
Wow.
Yeah. I actually like a specific story. This is not necessarily related to Jesus, but I did boxing, and there was this one kid. And when you're younger, you're judged by age and not weight. So if you're competing or if you're practicing, you do age rather than weight. But I'm like 13, and everybody else who's 13 is still like 50 kilos or something, and I'm already like well over 100, and so I'm like
13.
Heading into high school. Yeah,
wow.
I was like probably 230, something like that. And I'd just be knocking kids left and right at boxing. It just wasn't.
Yeah,
it just felt bad.
Wow.
Yeah, that's never been my problem. It's not my story.
Makes me sound like a just menace, but anyway, yeah. So did all these kind of sports, kind of rugby, soccer, all that kind of stuff. It definitely delivered me an avenue of being successful, creating a name for myself, being cool in school. At least at my school, they're like the core teams, which then correlated to the social coolness in the school. So like if you're part of the such and such team, you're known because the school had an emphasis on sports. So for me, I was like part of the rowing crew. We had a relatively competitive rowing crew at my school. So therefore, I was like relatively well known. I was big. Everyone, I guess, assumed wanted to be safe and be on my good side. Not that I even had a bad side, really, but but yeah, it was definitely an avenue of like improving myself, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. That's a little bit of backstory about that. I mean, it also leads on to in the future after my rowing days getting really into bodybuilding, but that can we pick up later. But
how long? Like, did you get big from after like 10 to 15? Like, was that when you hit your growth spurt?
Oh, honestly, mate. I mean, I was born. My mum always tells a story that when I was born, the midwife said that I looked like I was old enough to go to school.
Whoa.
When you were born.
You were born.
That's the joke she commonly says, or maybe not joke, but she says it all the time.
That's awesome.
I'm assuming I wasn't actually as big as a 5-year-old, but but yeah, I've always been like really big. I've even now I'm like kind of a normal size, but So I don't know. Where am I? Just trying to think where I've picking up the story from. Yeah, I don't know. I think I had, growing up, definitely had within myself insecurities about being, I don't even know if I put my finger on it fully, but like almost a need for affirmation from women, particularly. I don't know why. It wasn't like I was crying after dad, like, give me attention, give me love. It was like, I think my mum was the primary communicator to me when I was younger, and would give me food and like talk with me and stuff. And dad was there, but like not as a present as a role maybe she had. But so I don't just remember growing up with like a need to like a need. A lot of people like would date people to pursue like sex or pursue like physical pleasure. Really, is like a lot of motivations when you're young. It's like maybe I can hook up with them or something. Maybe
Sure.
give them a hug when you're really young. But for me, it was never really about that. I was like, maybe I can get someone to like care for me and love for me, which is a really interesting motivation to have. Which is not. I don't think it was very common. Maybe it is more common than I think it was, but I don't know. So I guess I'm setting a stage for my high school days. Because I think high school is when I really stepped into trying to understand who I was. I think my upbringing through to maybe like 8, I was like year 8, which is like 13. I was pretty like, I was the goody Christian. I would not like fight. I would correct people about them swearing and their manners and stuff and at school. And yeah, it was continually to try and be that. But I think I went from a really cool school to a school in South Auckland. And if you know anything about South Auckland, then you know that schools in South Auckland aren't the best for positive learning environments necessarily. Or at least they have a bad reputation for being a bit rough and like drugs and alcohol and that kind of stuff. Or a bit more of maybe the real world. So I think when I went to high school, it became this, now I can, now I'm 15 minutes drive from home. Mum and dad aren't going to go see me. I can kind of get to know who I am. What I like, what I don't like, why I follow the belief systems, that kind of stuff. Because that was when I kind of started to drink, was in high school, party, that kind of stuff. Because I was like, I don't know. It's weird to explain. I don't know. Maybe you guys can relate more so than I think. But at least for me, being a Christian, or at least I wouldn't even call myself a Christian necessarily when I was younger. At least being a church attender, I knew kind of the story, but because I didn't understand why we believe things, I didn't understand it myself, then I had no obligation to really comply by the rules, because I was like, I'm going to do it just because I don't want to disobey or like, or like disappoint my parents. Like I'm not going to swear around them at all. I'm not going to do any of that. It's just can of worms I don't want to open.
And your parents obviously never had any foul language in the house?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
No, my dad would make jokes using swear words. It was so funny. My mum would like tear him apart for it. But
yeah, but that's the extent of it.
Yeah.
Same with our household, I think. How about you?
I've never heard my parents swear.
Yeah.
Really?
My whole life. Yeah.
Never?
It's a super clean. Yep.
Wow.
So
Just perfect. No, honestly, I'm sure they probably have maybe once or twice, but
I did get a Facebook message the other day from my mom, and all it said, and I opened it up first thing in the morning, and so just on my lock screen just said, holy, like, well, the S word, I don't know. We haven't talked about if we're swearing on this podcast.
We need a
Holy,
beep button.
beep, S word, right? And I was like, Mom? And I opened it up, and it was like a video, like a political video, and that was just the caption or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And so then it was like
Gotcha.
this like speech or whatever, and so I was like, wait, did you mean I clarified, I was like, was this spam? Like, did you mean to send it? Should I open this link? And then she was like, oh, I just reposted it because and it was like a speech or whatever. So then I watched it, but whatever the caption was, it was supposed to be
okay.
enticing, but it was like I was pretty taken back.
Funny. Yeah, and I really don't think my parents raised for that much at all. Actually, my parents did hardly drunk either when I was growing up. I don't think they had like anything against it necessarily, but I think it was just they wanted to have an environment maybe at home. Or I don't think I've ever actually asked them why they did, but. Also, shout out to Mum and Dad if they're listening.
Yeah.
I do intend to share this, so maybe they will listen to it. But yeah, so I think. Oh man, where was I? I guess wearing like I kind of got to this point where I'm like, I'm enjoying going to church for the social life and that kind of stuff. Kids going ice skating, Tim bowling, whatever, all the fun stuff. Great.
The young adults, sort of
so
youth
much
group.
Fun. Playing, we used to do like games nights where we would literally hook up like 4 PlayStations at the church.
Yeah, we
And
did
would
that
just
too.
Jam. It was fun. It was like probably not a great idea, honestly, but I enjoyed it.
Do you think, Kyle, that like when you were doing all those youth group things and you'd share your faith a little bit with your friends, like say at least I'm a Christian, I go to church.
Yeah.
Do you think like your size had like affected your confidence to not have as much fear? Maybe.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't.
Because when I first met Carl, he was built like a truck. Like he was.
Well, it still is.
Yeah,
He still is, but he was even more so.
Even more.
And I was like, well, I'm not getting on this guy's bad side. He wasn't overweight, and
At that point, I was definitely
the obese side. You were the you're
muscle.
built.
Yeah. To answer your question, I don't know if I think I always stood for my faith in some capacity. Like people knew I was a Christian. People knew that I would go to church and whatnot because I think a lot of people were connected to my family. They knew my family were Christian and all that kind of stuff. I was pretty vocal, or at least I was intentional about inviting people I knew to church, to those kind of gaming events, to go ice skating as like an outreach to them. More so just because I wanted to hang out with them at church, not because I really cared too much. I don't think my motivation was really for them to start believing in God per se. I think it was just like, you guys should probably... I think maybe my motivation was really, you guys are bad. You should come to church. And you should come to church and just play PlayStation with me. We can play COD together or something. But yeah, I guess to draw the full circle on like that was... it was like, I'm enjoying church. I'm enjoying the stuff. But hey... why can't I can like if I am able to branch out of this area, if I start excluding behavior from home, I'm going to be able to enjoy this behavior at school and whatnot. And I could almost like, I mean, the double life is the classic term to explain it, but it was like, I can have this fun at church and I can also have this fun outside of church. Just no one really needs to know that they're connected, and I can swear at school, I can make super inappropriate jokes, I can like dive into all the sexual stuff like porn and it not be an issue because it wasn't like I was kind of enjoying, it sounds bad, but enjoying the best of both worlds, and but by keeping them disconnected or separated.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys can relate a little bit. Probably. I mean, I think most
For
Christians
sure.
who grew up in church can kind of relate to that. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely had a separate life growing up, divided church from school and all that. Yeah. Well, yeah,
to some extent,
to an extent. You know, like I would openly share that I went to church as well.
right?
But you know, again, would swear at school
Oh yeah,
and be holy on church. Sunday, and and separated them too.
Yeah, I mean, it's super common. I think I had a little bit less of a, I guess, an outlet because I was homeschooled, so I didn't have the school friends crowd kind of thing. But I mean, there was still plenty of opportunity where even the neighborhood kids or whatever, and you want to look cool and
so cool.
So cool. I just said a swear word. Heck yeah.
Look at me.
I should say the other word. Anyway,
It's good. I think that's awesome that you never really went down that way.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think we've all like had. I've definitely like had times in my life where I was like not walking with the Lord or like indulging in certain things, but it wasn't like I never felt like I had a certain life or a group of people that I was like totally pretending to be something else with, which is cool. And I also found really good friends in high school because there was different times during the youth group where I think some of the kids didn't take it real seriously, but then coming into the high school for me, I met a bunch of people right away that were super serious about Jesus. So
wow.
high school was really great for me because we just got right to it. But
That's a real rarity, eh?
we're all still friends today.
That's awesome.
It's super awesome. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, but I had a bunch of my friends who had gone to school as well had that same thing. So I think I know what you mean.
Yeah, a lot of the students that we see who come to YWAM, I think, can relate in some capacity to a similar story. And that kind of, for me, I don't think I was necessarily trying to like be fake to the friends I had at school. I was just able to express myself in the areas that I wasn't allowed to express myself in like at church. Necessarily, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if it does, but but yeah, I don't know. That's kind of a basis. My brother and I didn't have the greatest relationship growing up. I don't know. There's some things maybe he would care if I did share them, but
He's older than you, eh?
yeah, my brother's 26. Yeah, 26. He turns 27 this year. But he and I, like, we were like civil and we enjoyed each other's company, but it was a weird dynamic, our relationship. We were never like buddy. It was always like a competition or like trying to get mum's attention. It was funny, if you removed my parents, we'd get along well, but if my parents came home, then it'd be like trying to, like, a fight between us.
Is it just you two?
Yeah, it's just us two.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
yeah, it was like, can we? And I'd always be such an annoying brother, and I know that now. But like, I'd just poke him or like come jump on the trampoline or like keep
Kyle
bugging
just
him.
poked me too.
Because, sorry, he's a bit smaller than you,
Yeah.
and you're the younger brother.
Yeah.
Was that the same as?
No, I didn't get bigger than John T until like probably like midway through high school.
Oh, okay.
A couple of, like year 10 maybe.
Oh, so he had like a good
yeah.
decade and a half to pick on you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But it wasn't like he was abusive. He wasn't like physically abusive. One time he punched me off the trampoline. It was brutal. He like punched you straight in the sternum and I went flying right off the trampoline.
Yes.
It was
happens.
crazy. Yeah, it does happen. Actually, more than you know, it happens.
Yeah.
It actually was kind of funny. I had fun memories of it. But anyway, just to illustrate, my brother, actually, it was funny. Oh, I don't know how much to share about him, but I remember like seeing him one day at school and he like cussed. And I was like, oh, my brother swore.
He's not perfect.
My brother's not perfect.
Oh my
Like, what's
gosh.
going on?
Yeah.
I don't know if he knew that. I don't know. I don't think he even still knows. I don't think he ever talked about him about that. Hey, John T, if you learned that. Anyway,
We forgive you, John
yeah,
T.
we forgive you. We forgive. We know.
The secret's out.
The secret's out.
Yeah, the whole world knows now.
But anyway, it's important because God redeemed our relationship a lot later on. But my brother would be like, would tell me like it was a mistake that I was born and stuff like that, and like, and he was never mean, but he would just like say stuff in like emotion, like, you know, when you say something you don't really mean it, but you're saying it just to like prove a point or something, and it's a stupid way of doing it. But anyway, so my brother and I in high school, I'm competing. He's a rower too. He did rowing. I did rowing. We're relatively okay at it. The first couple of years I didn't do great. Actually, my weight had a big issue with it. I put on a lot of weight between those, like at the start of high school. I was, I mean fat. I did not.
Oh, really?
Not muscle. Not the good stuff.
I can't even imagine you fat.
Anyway, I was, I
gotta see a photo.
I was chunky. Yeah, I actually have photos. When we get a video version of this podcast, edit some photos in.
Okay.
But
Slideshow. Just a little slideshow break. Fat
just
Kyle.
oh my gosh, that'd be so funny. But yeah, and then man, that had such a huge part to play in my upbringing, was insecurities of being overweight, while also being somehow strangely strong and athletic, but like never being good enough. So I remember like being fat, and that was probably what and lazy. I think I'm not lazy, but I just hated running. I hate running. Now I'm married a runner, so I'm back in running. But yeah, I really struggled to.
God redeems.
Yeah, God, he just knows.
Me too.
Nice.
She's still trying to get me to run. I have gone once.
I enjoy
good on you.
it. I really enjoy running.
How
You
long
know,
you been married?
5 years.
Yeah. So been once.
I've been loads of times.
Wow.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
yeah, you got way ahead of me.
Yeah,
Oh
round
my
of applause
gosh.
for Kyle. Hit that button. Yeah, thank you.
Well done, Kyle.
And he's been married less than 5 years.
Yeah,
That's pretty
we're
good.
actually coming
Yeah.
up in our 1 year soon, but
Yeah, and for Joel, who's only gone once.
that's great.
Okay.
Man, I should hurry. Oh, maybe not. This is important. To put backstory, I suppose. Either way, I was heading into high school with like insecurity about my weight. It was my first environment, and like, oh, maybe I should date somebody. Maybe I could like get that affirmation. Maybe I could kiss them. Maybe it was actually funny. When I was in primary school, I used to tell people. I was a very vocal voice that dating is stupid. I
Really?
would like tell people who are dating, you guys are so
Nice.
dumb.
I love it.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Primary school.
Yeah, because I'm like, you guys are like 12. You don't love each other.
That's true.
Just stop dating. It's stupid. And then I went to high school like a year later, and I was like, maybe I should try this out. Anyway, but yeah, so there's all these. I think high school was an avenue for me to like, all these things are now available. I could pursue fitness, I could pursue women, I could pursue education, I could pursue all these kind of things. Meanwhile, having no concept of who I really was. It wasn't even like having identity in Jesus wasn't even a concept I understood. Like I didn't understand that God's opinion could be that God had an opinion about me, and if that opinion could be formative in being who I was and like actually informing who I was. So yeah, I went for it. I had a girlfriend the first year of high school. We dated on and off for like all of high school for 5 years. She's actually really lovely, but it was just all fueled out of I need something from her. I need affirmation, and that's probably why we broke up. Was I was just like so clingy, just wanting to have all this, give me my love. And any discerning listener will say, Kyle, it's because you didn't understand that God loved you. And you're right. I didn't know.
Yes.
You didn't. I didn't know that. But yeah, and then later on, probably like 16, started drinking, whatnot. Not crazy, but just parties, great social outlet, get drunk. Kyle's fun when he's drunk, confident, everyone, he can hook up with people really easily, very much fueled by that kind of stuff. I had a trip to Germany when I was 16, which was actually like one of my favorite memories of this far of my time on planet Earth.
Which part of Germany?
I was doing I had a host, a school exchange, with a family in Hamburg, which is northern Germany. It's a port town, but it's a really big city actually. Anyway, and so that was like another social. There was another. Now I'm like halfway across the planet. Now I can. Well, now is the time for me to get drunk. Now is the time for me to lose my virginity. Now is the time for me to like just go crazy because mum and dad aren't gonna know. No one's gonna know.
Yeah, what happens in Germany?
Yeah, it stays in Germany. Exactly. It was my. Actually, God, it's crazy. I can share some stories real quick, but God protected me so much. Like during that time, I was openly trying to like just be lawless, but the Lord protected me from so much. The funny story though, one of the first times I went over the top with drinking was in Austria with my host family, because it's important to note that drinking is not in New Zealand. Drinking is to get drunk most of the time, and it's it's hugely abused. At least in my perspective, it's one of the greatest strongholds in New Zealand is drinking. But over there, I think it's more social. The drinking age is 16. You like the pub or like the bar is the place to go rather than the restaurant. Like you drink and it's like your whole family is there. Your 5-year-old is there. It's like everything is. It's just a bit of a different paradigm shift from what I'd experienced. But I remember calling my parents the day after I got drunk, and they like knew instantly. Like, oh, you had some beers, and I was like, yeah. I must have been like so hungover. It looked terrible. Anyway, that was just a funny joke. My parents, I couldn't hide anything from them.
They know.
They know. They knew, and they do know. That's why I don't mind mentioning it. But
It's so good.
Yeah. But no, it was cool though. I enjoyed traveling. I think that's probably maybe even where I have a desire to travel and see different cultures now. It's being a missionary full time, or volunteer with YWAM is just experiencing that. I traveled a lot in Germany at the time as well. But anyway, also just with that, like a really cool testimony I had was just where God protected me from being just this crazy lawless child who wanted to do whatever he wanted. One day we went on a train with some of the host kids. We trained to Berlin, and then there was a party with this girl Nina. Shout out to Nina. She was organizing the party with this really rich kid at the school that we were exchanging with. And this guy's family was so loaded. Like, I'd heard everyone had shared different stories, but the kid had like 5 iPhone 5Ss, which is the best iPhone you can have at the time. His house was beautiful. They apparently had like private jets and like gold-plated swimming pool. I was told. I don't believe that, but who knows? And they had a party in this guy's house for this girl's birthday party, I think. And I remember like us deciding whether or not we should go to this party on the way home from the train back from Berlin. Like, let's do it. Let's go crazy. So we go there, and I'm like, we're just drinking, like chugging vodka. It's just like super. I'm going for it. It's basically the storyline. As I'm doing it, and I'm extremely drunk, and I it's important to note that I have nothing organized. I'm in the middle of literally nowhere in Germany. Don't know where I am. I have friends from school there, but I don't know how to get home. I haven't talked to my host family. I don't have my host, the guy who was hosting me, my host brother or whatever. He wasn't even with me. So I'm like, I'm just going for it and have no plans on like getting home, no plans of doing anything. I'm just living for the moment right now. And it was crazy. This girl that I was trying to hit on, her mom ended up picking me up and bringing me back to the home. And it was like, honestly, the Lord must have reminded me of my address, because I didn't have like any way of telling them. I was just like, Bellevue Street or something. And then she like took me right to my front door. I was like, wow. It was crazy. I just said like, it was just cool that I could have gone so terrible if I was not, like that didn't happen. But anyway, needless to say, Germany opened my perspective to more things of the world, and like not only more things of the world like drugs and drinking and stuff, but also like the world as a whole, as a body of people, and how different people live. So coming back to New Zealand, that was when I really started to excel in rowing. Excel is like a list term, but I was in my age group in my event, I was 7th in New Zealand. Which isn't that impressive, but I mean, I thought it was really cool.
That's cool.
And I got second in the North Island. I got a nice medal. My mum bought me a longboard. Anyway, sidetrack. It was now I'm beginning to lose this fat. I'm becoming to be successful at the sport. I'm becoming to do this well. I'm training, I'm working out, I'm like doing this stuff. So very quickly in my 16 through 19 years, around that age, fitness became a huge part of who I was and a huge part of my identity. Everyone wants to be friends with the big jacked guy or like the bigger dude because that's cool. Everyone wants to be a friend with him because he's safe, or, I don't want to be on his bad side either, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, after I finished rowing, I just pretty much sent everything into working out. And I mean, I wasn't any like Ronnie Coleman or anything, but I definitely was investing like 2 or 3 hours, or maybe 3 hours might be generous, but maybe 2.5 hours, like almost every day into the gym, just going crazy. And then I went to university, and that's really was like, I'm now living on a different island. My parents, I'm now starting my own life. What am I going to make it? It was very funny. Shout out to Johnny, my really good friend, who actually just started a podcast too.
What's it called?
It's called Winging It Potty.
Winging It Potty.
Yeah, I'm gonna wing it.
Sweet.
Winging It Potty. He actually lives in Austria. Shout out to Johnny. I might DM you this.
What's potty?
Like podcast. Potty. He just shortens it to potty. So
that's very cute with you.
Yeah, it is very cute. But anyway, Johnny and I lived in the same dorm. We both went to church together, but it was funny. We both were like drinking and both were like going out and pursuing ladies and stuff, but we never would show each other the lady part or like swearing or anything. It was really odd. Like for some reason we felt like we had to, at least on my end, I felt like I had to be like morally upright before Johnny. I could get drunk, but I couldn't I wasn't going to show him that I was trying to hook up with people or whatever.
And he did the same.
I mean, I had a girlfriend when he was there, and I won't speak for him, but I mean, he's my brother, so I love him, but yeah, it was just funny to see how our lives would party together. But it was funny. Somehow we had this line we never crossed, and it was kind of funny. But he was my closest friend in university. But yeah, I studied psychology and biochem at university. I only did 1 year. After the first year, I was like, I need to do a gap year and like seriously consider like what's going on with my life. There was a pretty formative event that happened in my university years. I was assaulted in the gym, it was a really weird encounter I was thinking about the other day. But I was working out with Johnny, and I flipped my mat over in the stretching area just because I don't even know why I did it. I didn't think I was trying to be annoying or anything, but it made this really loud noise, and there was a big Samoan guy, and anyone who knows Samoans, they're like big, strong people, and I don't mean generalize, but they are. And he was like sleeping or something, and he like woke up. He was in the gym. I don't know. It was really strange. And then I have my back to him. he comes up and just starts like beating me up like from behind. I was like lying on the ground. He
Like
just,
throwing punches.
yeah. He just drops down and just starts just throwing, wailing on my head, on my jaw and everything, and like right on my right side of my face. And Johnny's like, "Whoa, what's happening? What's happening?" And I was like, so shook because I was like, "This is so weird." Because when you get hit from behind, you have no idea it's coming, so you don't know what's actually happening until it's finished, really. So I'm like, ugh. And then maybe it only lasted like 5-10 seconds, and then he walked off. I was like, "What?" And he was just cussing at me like, "Don't even do that again!" Like, and I was like, "What happened?"
Well, I always sleep at the gym, so if anyone were to wake me up
Yeah, exactly.
when I'm in the middle of my workout,
I'm having my rest in between sets.
That's weird.
Just resting now between sets.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was strange. It was, and I think it was probably honestly a huge turning point in my faith. My mum was really formative to that. She was pointing it out that, hey Kyle, like why did this? What do you think this happened? I was an avid goer of Easter camp, which is a rite of passage for many Christians in New Zealand. Is this southern and northern Easter camps, and they're quite fun. You have like worship. It's like a 3-day event over Easter. I'm expanding the new bar for you, Joe. I don't know if you have many Easter camps in the States. I'm sure you have like way more than we do, but
we have similar things. I mean, we don't call it Easter. There's tons of conferences and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I think the cool thing, I've met a lot of Kiwis that have an Easter camp story. And that is the cool thing about New Zealand and Easter camp is because North Island and South Island, most Kiwis who have a background in Christianity or are saved have been to Easter camp, which in the States, there's a dozen conferences or more that are always taking place and not everybody goes. And so not everybody's like, oh yeah, I got saved at this conference. And everyone's like, oh yeah, me too. Like, Easter camp's cool. There's actually, I feel like there's a ton of fruit coming out of Easter camp, which is sweet.
Keep it up.
Yeah.
I was an even fan of Easter camp. I was always fun. It was always when I really felt close to God and like I was doing something okay. Excuse me. And I really enjoyed going to those, and it was fun. Like Christians who are listening will understand. Like when worship, you just feel like this presence of God, and it's just like crazy, and your head's like I'm tingling, and you feel like just so loved. And I didn't realize how much Johnny had a huge part of my testimony. Johnny and I would go to these Christian camps together because we would church together and families and stuff. And we were worshiping one night at Easter camp, Mototapu Island, and I just remember like just crying, like, man, Jesus died for me. Didn't actually understand really what that meant, but it obviously had such a profound effect because I was weeping, crying. And I was going through a breakup, I think, at that point as well, or something. I don't know. But yeah, just I would have these profound experiences with God every year at Easter camp, and I couldn't deny it. And it was something that was just like so tangible, and I knew that I just encountered the Lord every Easter. But I just slid away really every time it finished. Nevertheless, that's important to this big Samoan bloke beating me up, but I had just had like this really cool experience with God one day when I was studying the library at uni. I was longboarding back home, and I had Oceans by Hillsong play in my headphones, just come on, and it was the song of the Easter camp that year, and it just wrecked me. I just remember like getting home to my dorm, and just I could hardly hold back the tears, climbing up the stairs to get to my room, just like opening the door and just bawling my eyes out.
Wow.
I was so wrecked by God in that moment, and I was just like, what am I doing in my life? Like, this is so crazy. What's happening? I don't know. It was a really profound experience, and God was just meeting me where I was, in my sin and in my problems and everything. And then shortly after that, guy assaulted me, and I was in a dark place real quick after that happened. I was like, wow, I just kind of want to die. I was like, pretty bad.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. My dad struggled with depression when he was, I forget how old I was. Somebody at his work committed suicide, and he really blamed himself for the whole experience, which to everyone else seems ridiculous, but when you're in that position, you can't help but feel that way, I suppose. But I remember hearing a story of how he was just like, I kind of just want to walk into the ocean and not come back. And I like related to him in that moment. I was like, wow, I want to do that right now. And it was so weird. It was such a demonic thing. Now in hindsight, obviously, I don't think that any person in their right mind will want to like end their life, but anyway, I just remember that, and then I called my mom and we're talking about it, and it was funny. I almost like bragged about that experience because I was like, oh, cool, I got assaulted. But just so wise.
Like you can take it. Or
Yeah, I was
something.
like, I'm the man. Or like it's kind of the wow factor. Like, whoa, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But I remember it was so dark. And but yeah, my mum was like, whoa, like put the dots together. Like this happened right after you like had this amazing encounter with Jesus.
The one and
I had an
only.
amazing encounter with the Jesus magnet. Shout out. No. But yeah, so it really was just like, oh, maybe actually there's something here. And shortly after that, finished the university year. This is kind of the faster part of my testimony. I don't want to take too much longer, but finished up that year, and then I was like, I need to do something different. What's going on with my life? And I decided to take a gap year and change my degree entirely. So random. I was in my room at the end of that year and was like, hey, Mum, I obviously started the dialogue with I want to change my degree and do a gap year. So my mum walked past my door one day in my bedroom and was like, what about like wine science? I was like, all right, cool. That was like our discussion of me changing my whole career path. Was literally,
To wine science?
Yeah, to literally just studying wine.
That's right. That's what you're doing right
Yeah,
before we met.
wine.
Yeah.
Wine. It's called viticulture. Yeah, crazy, yeah. I'm a grape boy.
You actually have a degree in that.
No, I don't actually.
Oh.
That Jesus interrupted that too.
Oh yeah.
Which is great. Nevertheless, so I just quickly changed a path to, all right, I'm going to take a gap year, then I'm going to go study wine science. Great, cool, I've got a path in my life now, and it's going to be different. It's going to be exciting. Take this gap year to find out more about me and find myself and, all that kind of stuff people say about taking a gap year. And that gap year was 2017, and that was when Joel and I did our DTS, Joel Hillary. But nevertheless, I had a couple more months before my DTS, so I may as well live it up in the world a bit. And my plan was to go do viticulture, so I decided to get some work experience in the wine field to be a more more appealing applicant to a potential employer or a university, so that because I'd already studied 1 year of biochem, there was some cross credits because chemistry is a lot to do with wine and I was fermented and all that kind of the good stuff. So let's get a vintage experience, which is the harvesting period in a winery. I'll work one of those, go to YWAM. That had been decided at that point, and then I'll go and work in the viticulture. It'd be great. My parents were the ones. My mum was the big driving force behind me doing YWAM. It was something we talked about after I ended high school, but decided against because go to university rather than I don't know why I didn't choose to go to DTS. Anyway, God had other plans, I suppose. My brother did a DTS at the end of while I was at university, and he was the first one who did his DTS. He did his in Norway. I know that was a really cool experience for him, and he was the one who kind of led me into maybe doing this. I also met somebody at university who came and did a DTS in Wyoming, Queenstown the year before I did. Shout out to Johnny. It's another Johnny. If you're listening, Johnny.
There's a lot of Johnnies. Eh?
No, different Johnny.
Different Johnny.
Johnny Hodgson. Nevertheless. So I was like, all right, cool. My 2017 is planned, and then my 2018 is planned, and then my future is going to be a winemaker. It'll be great. I'll be in the fields sipping freshly scraped juice, and be great, and enjoy my sunny evenings in Hastings. Anyway, so I'm like, I'll work this vintage. I mean, I want to. If anyone's listening right now, just bear with me. I'm almost finished.
Take your time. It's fine.
Lose people's attention. So I just I had a really interesting experience in the winery. I was 20 at that point, or I was 19, heading on 20 in July. And the 3 months working, it's real intense work because a winery only has a certain window to harvest the grapes, to make it into wine, to ferment over a certain period of the year. So you work, the plant that I worked in was day and night, 24 hours, it never stopped running. So we had 12-hour shifts, we'd work every day. So, it took 1 day off a week. So I was working 70-hour weeks, like consistently for 2 months. So a lot of work. I mean, you get paid great, but it's like, if you're not taking care of yourself, not so good. And this is the height of my insecurity, heading to pride in my body image, because I'm starting to get gains. I'm starting to shred fat. I'm starting to look aesthetic and be noticed for it. So I was working out. I would go to work. I was in Blenheim at this point, which is the top of the South Island. I would go to work on my 6 days off. Go to work at like wake up at 6, slam like 2 or 3 eggs and like whatever breakfast thing I ate, like on average a day, like over a kilo of chicken, over like 800 grams of rice each day, consistently, just because getting the gains and macros and stuff. And go to work for 12-hour shift, have like 2 or 3 meals, 2 or 3 protein shakes, eggs, snacks, all that kind of stuff, just eating like a crazy man. Then finish work at 7 p.m., chug like 10 coffees worth of caffeine and a pre-workout, go to the gym, work out for 2 hours, then go to the supermarket, go home, cook dinner, go to sleep, do it again. So it was like crazy, but I felt great. I was like, I am the man because I am getting gains, I'm getting money, I'm able to. I've mastered my life. I'm in control right now, and I have the ability to eat all this food. I have the ability to pay for this food. I'm basically micromanaging myself, and it felt good because I was able to do it. I don't really fully understand that, but yeah, really, a couple of really important things happened during that time in my life. I got sick. I started to get like really fainty at work. It was kind of weird. I think a lot of tall guys kind of get this, but if you stand up too quickly, you get real lightheaded. And for me, it happened quite badly. I'd like stand up at work or I'd like be lifting something and I'd be real lightheaded. It happened for maybe I took maybe like a couple of weeks off. It was bad, but also like I just kind of milked it as well. Honestly, to be honest, I was probably not that sick, but it was mentally more so than anything, I think. So that happened, and I also was trying to, I met a girl at work. She was a Kiwi. A lot of the internationals come from overseas to come get experience in our wineries in New Zealand. So lots of friends with those guys, but there's a Kiwi girl. I thought it would be really fun. We bonded quite quickly. We'd hang out together. We'd go to the movies together. We'd go to dinner together. We'd go in my room alone together. Nothing happened. We didn't even hold hands or anything, but I'm like, come on, there's got to be something here. Like, we're spending a lot of time together. We're always hanging out. We're always talking. I don't know. In my mind, I'm like, this is a serious kind of like connection we have. And I remember, a couple of things happened. This is stuff I haven't told my parents. I'm gonna preface this before they hear the podcast. But yeah, I remember going to a work do at the end of our harvest period. Basically, it's just an excuse to get terribly drunk with your workmates because all the alcohol is free, and it's a dress-up party. And I'm this big, like, relatively jacked guy. I'm wearing a superhero costume. I'm wearing Duffman costume, which is the guy from Simpsons. Yeah. I won Best Dressed. Actually, won a really nice bottle of wine, which I gave to my mum.
Oh, nice.
I'm the best. Good. No, I'm kidding. That sounds so terrible. But yeah, I just get terribly drunk. The long story short is we go to town after this thing, and I'm led to the situation with a girl that I knew who liked me at work, but I had no interest in her. But basically trying to sleep with her on the side of the road in like 2 or like maybe like midnight or like 1 a.m. in the morning on the main street in Blenheim. It was crazy, and it was a huge wake up call. I'm going to DTS in a month, and I'm trying to have sex with somebody on the side of the road next to the warehouse.
You had already decided to go.
Yeah,
to
so at that point, this is a bit important. We'd made a decision at that point. Shortly after, decided to do viticulture as a degree because I'm like, Mum's like, you're going to take this whole year off. You may as well make use of like the last half of it because the vintage period's only 3 months long. So why don't you do the DTS in the last 6 months of 2017? Okay, it's great. I'll go do snowboarding in Queenstown and not really care about God that much. But yeah, so that led me. I was like, pretty much hit rock bottom at that point. I lost my phone too. Later found it. But but it was like added to the night. I was like brutal. And I made her feel terrible. I was not a nice person. We're both drunk, no idea what we're doing. I'm glad that we didn't have sex, but it was like, we were trying. It's just brutal. I don't need to go into detail or anything, but it was just like a definitely terrible experience. And Sydney knows about this, but since I'm sharing, but it was a huge switch on. It was like negative degrees out. I'm on the other side of town. I had to walk home, and I'm like walking like a couple of kilometers to get home in like freezing cold weather. Wow. I get home. I remember like not having a key or anything. Get home, I lie in my bed, and I'm like another breakthrough moment, like the Oceans moment. Well, Oceans wasn't playing this time, but But I was like, God, I need help. I actually I'm suffering right now. I have no idea how to live my life. I need a mentor. I need something. Good thing I was going to YWAM in a couple of months or something. But it was a terrible experience. But it was because I wanted it. It was because I had some kind of infatuation with needing this as my life. Then the truly heartbreaking thing happened 2 days later when I found out the girl that I'm actually serious and interested in is not only in a relationship, but is engaged and getting married in a couple of weeks, and hadn't shared with me at all the whole time. All the time we're at the movies together, doing dinners together, all this stuff. The girl that I actually was seriously interested in, and I just tried to lose my virginity. I just tried to do all these things. I was so full of shame. I confided in her about my feelings and what was going wrong, and then just boom, big old dump on me. And that was when I was probably that was maybe 3 weeks before I came to do YWAM, and or maybe 4 weeks. And I remember that was basically the last straw. She told me in a grocery store. I drove her home because I need to leave because I was just emotional overload. I was so overwhelmed. Drop her off, and I'm like, all right, cool, I'm gonna die now. And then I went to crash into a tree. I was like, I can just end it. It's all good. It's a pretty bad run. And I don't know if I actually would have done it. Obviously, I'm alive, so it's good. But I was seriously considering. I pulled over to hit the tree, and then I remembered I couldn't do that to my mum. That's probably one of the biggest reasons, or maybe the only reason in that moment I didn't kill myself was because I couldn't put my parents through their son dying. It would be so brutal and terrible. So I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I called mum instead. Probably the best thing I could have done in that moment. I called mum and explained, didn't tell her about trying to sleep with the girl, but I told her about the huge heartbreaking emotional thing. I went and go buy some beer, and then I go to the gym after drinking 2 beers, feel terrible. Literally, and the way I see it now is literally I tried to go to every source of emotional happiness that I could. The girl couldn't please me. I'll drink beer, go to the gym, my 2 alcohol and working out, and everything failed me. I was I have nothing to lean on right now. I'm just shaky.
Wow.
So that was my emotional state before I met Jesus, and everything happened. So the common phrase people talk about me is big on the outside, but even bigger heart, and or I look physically intimidating, especially my DTS. My DTS staff, any YMers, shout out to Cody, Anthony, and Matthew Johnson. But when I showed up to DTS to the accommodation at Walmart House, I walk in the door and all my staff members who I mentor is hey, show me to my room. And then they tell me later they had a meeting about me because they were concerned that I would, if I was to present any issues, if I was to be I don't think it was actually serious or anything, a serious meeting. But Cody told me later, he's bro, we're actually we can't stop this dude if he decides not to follow the rules. But he's just going to do what he wants to do. Isn't that funny? I was I'm a nice guy.
Physically stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then I went to Queenstown. Anyway, it's besides the point. But heading into YWAM, I looked the best in my life. I was nothing. I had nothing inside. I was everything in my life was destroyed. I have nothing. All the relationships I've tried, all the all the sexual things I've tried to please myself, all the friendships, drugs, or drinking, that kind of stuff. Everything has just let me down. And I'm in this place where I'm I look great, but I'm really not doing hot. I'm not doing great. Maybe Joel, you could even share what you saw in me at that point, but yeah, it wasn't good.
I do remember my very first time seeing you in that Perkins house, and we're just in. There was just all. I think a couple of days before we sort of started, or a day before we started properly. So everybody's sort of meeting each other for the first time, and I had how many people were in our discipleship training school?
Probably 20 or something. Yeah.
And 99% of them are Americans.
Yeah.
So.
Oh no, we had 7 Kiwis.
Oh, that's
Kiwis.
true.
Yeah, we had a
Yeah.
decent amount, actually.
But I hadn't really
7
met
Kiwis.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
That's
Yeah.
more than we get most.
Yeah, it's true.
Although
funny.
Isaiah claimed as a Kiwi and he had a thick as American accent. But anyway, I had really only met Americans,
Yeah.
and then I just look at Kyle, and I'm like, you couldn't get any more American than this massive jock
Just screaming Kiwi.
that's like eyeing everybody down, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna, nah. I'm gonna stand clear of that guy.
That's so funny.
And then when I went and talked to you for the first time, and this different accent comes out, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's like me.
One of us. Yeah.
One of us, yeah. And I was like, oh, cool. And it's funny because you did look very intimidating, but it really, even before you probably had your first worship night, you weren't very hard to get through your shell. After actually just talking to you, you did have a big heart, and I could even tell that before God directed you at YWAM. Like, it was in there. It was an act, and I was like,
oh, totally.
It's just a shield, all that muscle is just a shield, really.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. It was like I had to make something out of myself because there wasn't anything in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you heard about the book C.S. Lewis wrote? And it's about a demon. I can't remember exactly what the book
The
is.
Screwtape novels.
Yes.
Yeah, I have heard about it.
It talks about the demons got like when somebody's getting so low, their one job is to try and not get them to rock bottom, because that's the point when they cry out to God. And it's interesting that you're saying, like you kind of hit rock bottom 1 or 2 times.
Yeah.
And also you were pretty messed up, and then encountered God, and then straight away followed by a demonic attack of this big Samoan guy hitting you in the back. Do you think that that's like a common thing for people to, they encounter God and then the demon tries to sort of take out that experience real quick?
Oh yeah, totally. The first thing I think of is Jesus talks about the seeds. When God is planting seeds in your life, or somebody's like planting seed of Lord or whatever. One of the examples Jesus talks about is Satan coming to steal it away if it doesn't find good soil. And obviously a lot of that is to do with like, I'm probably blending. I think there's a couple of seeds parables that Jesus talks about. But a lot of it's to do with your own heart, and like whether you're storing other things up in your heart, and whether there's actually soil for the seed to grow and stuff. But one of the scenarios is that like the things of the world choke it out, or maybe the birds take it or something. I don't know. But it's talking about how Satan or things will come and steal God's word and the seed that's planted in your life. So I think for sure it's happened. And I mean, from my own experience, it happens.
Yeah.
How quickly do we forget? Oh man, it's the story of the Bible. How quickly do we forget God's goodness because of other things, or because of things that come up that are seemingly more important or louder that tell us other things? And I mean, it happens all the time. Yeah, so I would 100% agree, and that's what happened to me in a lot of ways. Yeah, I would agree.
And then what happened when you, came into Youth with a Mission?
Yeah,
and that's kind of where you are now, a couple of years later.
Yeah,
as a staff member.
They haven't let me go yet. I'm kidding.
Never stops the training.
Never stops the training. Yeah, no, so that led me to, I suppose, where I was there, just terribly insecure. I remember Mark Parker making a joke about me, like when we had this day. I remember telling this guy who's a teacher with YWAM that I wasn't very happy with the way my body was, and he was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, he was like everyone would die to be big like you or something. And I was like, no. So I just came to YWAM with like just so insecure, so broken and everything. But anyway, the good news is I've just shared the terrible stuff for the last 50 minutes or something. But the good news is that Jesus is real, and Jesus is alive and wants to touch the hearts of every human on the planet. And he touched my heart and changed everything for me. So yeah, the good news comes from when I was in YWAM. It was the first environment where I had personally encountered Christians who were serious about. God wasn't church. God was like life. I think that was a big distinction that I noticed. Was like, it's about living like Jesus, not like just going to church, do church. Not that church is a bad thing, but yeah. So it was crazy to see that. But it was really. My life at that point had been tailored to be saved by God's grace and his love for me, because I was like, I was so broken. It maybe wouldn't have been as easy if I had been like okay, or I had like I don't know, whatever, I had something going for me. But yeah, the first week of our teaching, I had a guy who was coming in, Josh Cole is his name, good man, and he was sharing about how to hear God's voice, and it was a concept I never even considered being a thing. I was like, what the heck? Like it's almost funny though, because when even if you don't know you can hear God's voice, you still pray, ask like wanting to hear an answer. Like it's almost like we already innately know that God will speak to us, but for some reason it's just we don't understand that we can learn more about that. But anyway, he was sharing about that, and then he starts sharing the gospel just out of the blue, the gospel of Christ Jesus, and how he has come to fulfill, he has come to give us a purpose, he's come to give us new life, and it was just like, oh, light bulbs. My heart's like, Kyle, that's what you've been wanting, bro. That's what you need, mate. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm already friends with Jesus. Like, I've already given my life. I don't need anything. I mean,
I've been to Easter camp.
Yeah, I've been to Easter camp. Come on. Felt the tingles. But yeah, I felt so strongly. I was like, Kyle, you need to recommit your life to Jesus. Because when I was really young, maybe like 14 or 15 or 13, I told Jesus, I'm like, I'll let you into my heart. That kind of prayer. Not to like diminish that, but it wasn't like, Kyle, when you become a Christian, it means you're following Jesus and your life is not your own. I think it's a big difference between that prayer and I invite you into my heart, Jesus. But yeah, it was the first time I heard the gospel, at least to my own heart, and it really hit me deep. And I was like, "Whoa, all right, let's maybe give this a shot." So I walked up to the front, and I was like, "That's cool. It's not a big deal to give your life to Jesus. Yeah, easy. Anyone can do this." And I get to the front. And it's lunchtime at this point, so everyone's breaking off to get food. And it's just Josh, and he's asking, answering somebody else's question. I'm standing in line, and then I get close to him, and I'm like, hey.
Josh Cole?
Yeah, Josh Cole. And I'm like, at this point, I'm already crying, because I know my heart is crying out for this Jesus that I've been told about, because everything else hasn't satisfied. And I'm like, hey, man, I need to... I was crying a lot more than I am right now, but I was like, Jesus, Josh, I need to give my life to Jesus. I need to recommit my life to Jesus. And he's like, all right, that's cool. And then he's like, hey, everyone, Kyle's going to give his life.
I remember this.
Yeah, Kyle's going to give his life to Jesus, or wants to recommit his life to Jesus. And I was like, okay, all right, let's do this. Guess no turning back now. So yeah, I just went for it. I just exposed my heart to God, everything in front of everybody. And I just remember all the guys on the school just coming around me and supporting me, because my body was rocking, my knees were clanging together. Couldn't even support my own body weight. I was just like, I'm just so overwhelmed by the presence of God. I would hesitate to say I don't think I felt it stronger than when I did then, because I have, but it was like one of the most tangible things I've ever felt in my whole life. Just the weight of God's glory and the weight of His grace and forgiveness and His love for me was just unbearable. And my body couldn't even hold it. And that's why a whole bunch of the guys came around and supported my body as I was just praying and confessing and repenting and sharing my heart. I don't even know if I was repenting that much. I was just like, sorry, God, I see the way now. I'm sorry. Let's do this properly. Yeah. And from that day on, that was the light bulb moment. I was baptized in the Holy Spirit shortly after, and then in water shortly after that. And then kind of had this crazy 6-month experience of actually Jesus is real. And you need to be a bit more, I don't know, went through a lot of maturing as a young guy. But yeah, it was a crazy formative experience in my life. And then realized maybe God has different plans than the winery. Maybe it'd be nice to join YWAM and actually have an environment where I can grow and disciple and share and what this. And nevertheless, I felt that the Lord was calling me to join staff and be a volunteer with them. So I joined staffing, and that was probably one of the biggest times where I felt when I was called to pray and actually seek God for the will for my life. And it wasn't easy. I remember I had to really wrestle with what God wanted me to do. God, is this really what you want me to do? Is that really you, God? And
good book.
Yeah, good book. And hell, the one was out there. But yeah, it was great, but hard. And then March 2018, I joined back on volunteering, and I've been doing it ever since. I've been blessed to go to multiple countries, do even more with my own missions, share the gospel with tons of people and see them come to the same revelation that Jesus is amazing and actually is good for us and wants the best for us. I met my wife, Sydney. Like I said, we've been married for almost a year now, which is crazy. And just to see God's faithfulness in redeeming that and all the relationships I had with broken relationships with women previously, and just to see how Sydney was the culmination of what God wanted to give me all that time. My relationship with my brother was restored. Like on my DTS, he came and joined us for a period of time in Queenstown and went snowboarding and stuff with us. And God just reconciled us together one day on the mountain, and it was just amazing. We just apologized for being brats, and it was great. And it was like, oh, we're actually adults now. Let's just be friends. And it was that easy. It was amazing. So don't be intimidated, everyone, to reconcile, because it may be obviously God's heart is to be reconciled and not to be like any animosity, but it's actually like a good thing, eh? It doesn't have to be hard. It's just like, hey, just repent and say, I'm sorry.
That's so true.
Let's just be reconciled. And sometimes it's more complicated than that, but it was a really cool healing experience. And even with my relationship with my parents, just so much better, skyrocketed. And understanding them and their faith, understanding how they parented, all that kind of stuff, just so good. And I suppose that kind of leads us to where we are now, just still volunteering with them. Sydney and I are still praying about our future. We've been married for a year now almost, and our commitments have been finished with the YWAM course, so we're just excited to. I know that God has a plan for us, and God is still the thing that satisfies me, and God is still like real, and it's just amazing. I don't know. Maybe you guys want to ask questions. We've already gone an hour, but
it's so good.
I just really want to encourage anyone who's listening that God will satisfy. I think that's like the story of my life, is that God will satisfy.
Yeah,
God does satisfy.
Yeah,
it's so much more than you could ever want. Like, don't watch that movie. Just spend some time with God.
Yeah,
like it'd be so much better. Yeah, I'm not against movies, but in my heart, like it's just. The rewards of seeking God and being with Him is exponential and will always be better than anything else you could ever do with your whole life. Yeah, that's the story of my life, I suppose.
I think I just want to, lift you up, Kyle, because I've you and I, we crossed roads. Our lives crossed at YWAM when we both were there as students, and what I've seen from when did we do that? 2017.
Yeah.
2017, like this big guy with a lot of damage, and to see him get like radically changed in the first week or so when Josh Cole was there, and then over the last couple of years, even last year we did the Discipleship Bible School with you, and you were one of the leaders on that course, and to see how much wisdom comes out of you, and it's a lot different than that. Not that you were immature, but there were times of immaturity during 2017.
Yeah,
and it's like, because I'm a bit older than you, and we're in the same school, and during that time, I was the only married guy. My wife and I did that, so we get the treatment of, oh yeah, you're married and mature and no fun straight away, which is fine. I mean, I didn't really mind it, but it was like being able to talk to you, and on that, your maturity has surpassed more than I could ever imagine in such a short amount of time. And you like the wisdom that comes out of you when we're doing those, when we're talking about things in the Bible. It's amazing. Like, it's quite. I think of you kind of like, have you guys seen The Matrix when Neo gets kung fu uploaded up into his head, and it's
have you seen The Matrix, Joe?
And like such a short amount of time, he's like, like 10 minutes, getting uploaded. He's like, I know kung fu now.
Yeah,
and that's kind of like you, like in just a few short years, it's like, yeah, I know God's heart, and you've been searching for Him, and you can see that. You can see that, like the amount that's come out of you in such a short amount of time. Yeah. And because maturity has nothing to do with age. You got to choose to mature, but it's inevitable to grow up. Yeah, to age. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I would agree. Like, I think that God has done a crazy work, and it's because I believe that God rewards those who seek Him. Something that I've noticed about being a Christian and exploring Jesus and what it means for my life is that God doesn't place limitations on our growth. Like, it's not like you have to level up, or we have to like gain XP to like buy the next upgrade, to be like gamer lingo.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? I think sometimes it's like, oh, maybe I'll understand it one time. But actually, like, God wants us where we are to have the wisdom we need to move forward. I think sometimes it's ourselves that hold ourselves back because we don't think that we're worth it, or it's our own things. And I mean, that's okay. Like, we're being human, we're growing. But man, God, I don't think God's holding back from us. And I don't think God wants us to be immature or anything. Like, I think He's like, man, guys, the fullness of Christ is now. The fullness of godly maturity is now. Let's step into that. And the only thing holding that back is from us. And sometimes I'm like good at stepping into that maturity, and sometimes I'm not. You can ask my wife, but yeah, I think that it's just really cool to see how God wants us to pursue Him, and He hasn't put any obstacles in the way.
Yeah.
And it's just like, let's just do this together, and it's been fun.
Yeah.
Dang.
But thanks.
What do you think, Thompson?
Oh, that's awesome. I haven't known you that long. I've known you, well, I guess 2 years, on and off with trips and whatnot, but I've never actually heard your story. That's pretty incredible.
Oh, spoilers.
Yeah, no, honestly, that's speaking right to me today, man. Oh, cool. Seriously.
That's awesome.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing.
No worries, bro.
Yeah, well, Thompson, do you want to do the outro for us?
Yeah, deal. So, Kyle, thanks for coming. For the rest of y'all, please tune in. Tune in again to the Jesus Magnet, and we'll see you again where all things attract Jesus.
Awesome.